What is up, Janksters? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today we're actually going to be looking at a deck that at this point has kind of become a meta deck, believe it or not. I'm a little late to the party on this one, but it is very interesting, and I want to ask the question, okay, is it really good? Or was it a weird flash in the pan that saw some cool results in one event? So in the standard challenge on MTGO a few days ago, this particular deck ended up taking the whole thing down, which surprised a lot of people. It leverages Invasion of Alara and a pretty crazy combo that is made possible because of Wilds of Eldraine. The way that Invasion of Alara works, it's a 5-drop, it's one of every color. And when it enters the battlefield, you exile cards from the top of your library until you exile 2 non-land cards with mana value 4 or less. You may cast one of those 2 cards without paying its mana cost. Put one of them into your hand and the other card exiled this way on the bottom, or you put one into your hand, you cast one, and then the rest of the cards that you see go to the bottom. So the way that this card works is very, very similar to Cascade, with one key difference. People who were paying attention to Modern when Kaldheim came out may have remembered an issue with Cascade where people were cascading into Valky, God of Lies, and casting Tybalt, Cosmic Imposter, because the front face of that card is a 2-drop, the back face is a 7-drop Planeswalker that's pretty fantastic, and if you're getting that out on turn 2 or 3, well, you're probably going to win that game, because that's just earlier than you're supposed to do that. So they added a detail about Cascade, where now when you properly cascade into something, you choose to cast a spell, and then it checks, is the spell, an appropriate mana value for this Cascade? Well, Invasion of Alara doesn't have Cascade. This is a different variant, and that safety valve isn't present. And so as a result, Invasion of Alara can spin into the Bramble Familiar, and you can cast the 7-drop adventure on it called Fetch Quest. And what Fetch Quest does, you mill 7 cards, then you put a creature, enchantment, or land card from among the mill cards onto the battlefield. So what you're doing here is you're paying 7, you're getting a 7-drop that is effectively kind of a one-sided Breach the Multiverse. Like, it's very similar to that, except you can grab enchantments or lands as well. And it's only your library, not your opponent's. So it's not quite as good as a full-on Breach in most situations, but the fact that we're now free casting this off of a 5-drop, well, that looks pretty darn good. Additionally, the way this main deck is set up, because Invasion of Alara just goes until you hit something, you'll notice the main deck has 1 go for the throat. The moment you bump that up to 2, all of a sudden there is an opportunity and a potential for Invasion of Alara to whiff and not give you Bramble Familiar. That's why you'll notice the only cards that cost 4 or less in this deck are Bramble Familiar and a 1-of copy of Go for the Throat. So if Invasion of Alara resolves and that ability triggers, you have a 100% chance of one of the 2 cards exiled being Bramble Familiar. So you're going to be able to hit the Fetch Quest. And if you hit the Fetch Quest, you'll notice we have some real bangers at the top end. We, of course, have Atraxa. We have Atali. We have Virtue of Persistence, which is quietly really freaking good, especially in a deck that contains Atraxa and Atali. We're running Phyrexian Fleshgorger, which is a really powerful 7-drop that if it's on the field, it needs to be respected. We also have Leyline Binding, which is a little bit of a miss, honestly. If Fetch Quest grabs us Leyline Binding, we're going to be a little sad. However, because we're juggling 5 colors, we have all of the triomes. And so 90% of the time, we're going to be casting this for 1, maybe 2 mana. And so it's a very good card in that regard. But the real star of the show is one from Innistrad, Crimson Vow, that didn't see much play in Cemetery Desecrator. So Cemetery Desecrator is a 4/4 menace for 6, and when it enters the battlefield or dies, you exile another card from a graveyard. When you do, you remove X counters from target permanent, where X is the mana value of the exiled card, or target creature and opponent controls gets -X until end of turn, where X is the mana value of the card removed. So, well, we have Leyline Binding 6-drop, Virtual Persistence, Phyrexian Fleshgorger, Atali, Herd Migration. These are all 7-drops. And you'll notice the Invasion of Alara has 7 counters. And so if we play the Invasion of Alara, we spin into Bramble Familiar, we Fetch Quest up into Cemetery Desecrator, we then get to exile our Herd Migration that we either milled with the Fetch Quest or we channeled earlier in the game. And that removes 7 counters, and then the Invasion of Alara flips into Awaken the Maelstrom. So as you can see, the amount of like stupid big value that we can get to if we can get to 5 mana, 1 of each color, is going to be insane. And the reason that this deck is possible, frankly, is just because the Triomes didn't rotate. It's really what it comes down to. The reality is we have these tri-lands that are all typed that open up domain in these crazy ways and allow us to be playing 5-drops and then cascading into 2-drop 7-drops, which I know it didn't make sense, but it works, trust me. Yeah, so it's pretty nuts. Additionally, you'll notice that a lot of our top end can actually be played out in cheaper ways. However, Invasion of Alara ignores them. So like Phyrexian Fleshgorger, for example, that's really a 3-drop. Leyline Binding, a lot of times that's going to be a 1-drop, maybe 2-drop. Virtual Persistence has the 2-drop adventure mode, which is just decent removal, so that's really a 2-drop. And then Herd Migration, you can use the 2-drop mode to go find a basic land, and you'll also notice we have 1 of each basic land type, so whatever we're missing, go find it, boom, keep it moving. So the curve actually looks a lot better than it does on paper. Like if you look at the, it looks really funny. But in reality, it plays much smoother. We also have Luca Bound to Ruin, which honestly is kind of an interesting one. This is a weird card, honestly, but it is it's a powerful planeswalker. You can play as cheap as 4. It gives us the ability to ramp. So, you know, +1, you add a green and a red. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities of creatures. So if we're trying to cast out some of our big bombs later in the game, it can help us play those out. It also can produce a 3/3 Toxic 1 Beast, which can kind of help gump up the board a little bit and make it a little difficult for our opponent to get through. And then the -4 deals X damage, divided as you use among any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control, as you activate this ability. So obviously if we can get Luca online, you know, alongside one of our big bombs, then that's just free value and things go crazy. So it's an interesting card, and notably it is a 5-drop that can be played at 4. So again, to kind of keep the pattern going of, you know, Invasion of Alara ignores it, we can't cascade into it, but it could give us some value as we work our way to it. Pretty darn cool. So honestly, this deck is really neat, and I'm just kind of asking the question here. Simply put, is this deck as good as it seems? Is this a flash in the pan, or is this the real deal? Well, I'm going to run out and do a couple of matches with it, and we're going to test it. As far as our sideboard goes, we have a couple Fade from History, great against the enchantment decks. Note though, this is a 4-drop. A lot of the cards in the sideboard are, you know, 2s or 4s, and as a result, you notice there are a lot of 1-ofs. If you're going to be adding them into the deck, be sure to take out the Go for the Throat. That way, you don't disrupt the combo, you don't disrupt the 100% hit chance with Alara, but these are like other little flavor cards that might be better. In the case of Fade from History, if Alara spins into Fade from History and Bramble Familiar, use Bramble Familiar, but you're probably going to play the Fade from History the next turn and feel really good about it because it goes to your hand. You know, if you're in a deck, or if you're going up against the Enchantment deck, for example, that's really good. Like, that's a really good spell. We also have Mirror Shell Crab. This is a 3-mana counter spell or a 7-drop. So, you know, we can channel it and counter stuff. So if we're going up against, you know, more mid-rangey decks and, you know, where we know we're going to be dealing with Shale Dreads or an Invasion of Zendikar, some of these kind of, you know, 4-drop or even 5-drop threats that we can disrupt with this, it's probably worth having in the deck. And if we spin into it, we could do worse. You know, at the very least, if it ends up in our graveyard, Virtue of Persistence can pull it out later. And that's good value. We also have an Up the Beanstalk. Honestly, this is one where I probably wouldn't be in a hurry to pull this in, but at the same time, the amount of value we can get here is no joke. The bottom line, just that is very strong. Yeah, we also have Elesh Norn, Mother Machines, Thronebreaker, Silence, Luca Bound to Ruin. Just a lot of good 5 and 6 drops. Coglin Yadaro is fun in here. I like this one a lot. If they have enchantments or artifacts that are worth blowing up, Coglin Yadaro is going to be really good. And then we have another copy of Atraxa. If we're in a good matchup where we're going up against especially very aggressive opponents where we want to increase the likelihood that we're going to spin into Atraxa, then we definitely want that. Additionally, we're juggling 5 colors. Worst case scenario, you just cast Atraxa from your hand. Like, that's fine. And Luca can reasonably ramp us into Atraxa. Note, we don't need the red mana that Luca generates, so that just goes towards one of the generic. But still, if we have the other colors represented, then we could just cast it. Same with Atali. Like, we can always just cast these. Like, that's the floor. So, honestly, I'm excited. I think this deck looks really impressive, and it's using, like, crazy rule scenarios and, like, really dumb big stuff, which is kind of my jam. So, I love it when these kind of decks see the light of day and see competitive play. So, let's hop out onto the ladder, test that out a little bit, and see if we can get some wins with this thing. This hand looks pretty rough. We do have to go for the throat in hand, but only 2 lands. Yeah, that's a pretty easy mull, if I'm honest. This looks much better. So we have the Bramble Familiar in hand. Ziatora's Proving Grounds can allow us to cast that out on 2. Or we could lead off with the Raffine's Tower and have the Leyline Binding up. Either way, I'm pretty happy with this. I'm okay putting the Desecrator back. It's not quite where we want to be. We don't have the Invasion live at this point, but we'll get there soon, and I want to be ready. All right, so let's see. You know what? I'm going to lead off with Raffine's Tower. Because the only 2 land types that this is missing are Mountain and Forest. And Ziatora's Proving Ground provides both of those. So we play out Ziatora's Proving Grounds on 2. We now get 2 Triomes locked and loaded, and we have the Leyline Binding up on 1. So we're going up against Mono Red, is what it is. Now, note, I'm playing best of 1 for this just because, just for the sake of time, really. But yeah, here we go. Let's do it. Yeah, a lot of times, I mean, this deck is definitely built for best of 3, but I figured, let's jam a couple games and hopefully we get some diverse matchups, so who knows what'll happen here. So there's Kumano facing Kakazan doing its thing. We have a couple of these coming in. I am just gonna bind the Phoenix, one of the Phoenix chicks. It doesn't feel great. This kind of feels like a missed opportunity, but it's preventing damage this turn and then also preventing damage in future turns, so hopefully, as time goes on, you know, throughout the course of the game, that will have proven worth it. We'll see. Yeah. The more I think about it, the less I like it. But here we are. Now we play out the Bramble Familiar. At this point, we're trying to ramp up to Atraxa and be ready for when we top deck the Invasion of Alara. That's really the goal. So, like right now, actually, if we top deck the Invasion, I believe we can just play out Stormcarved Coast. Then we'll have blue, white, black, red, and then green. Yeah, we would have it. So Rampaging Raptor, I've seen a couple of lists rocking that recently, and I'm very surprised. I'm assuming that somebody won a something with it, and as a result, it's now become the new hotness, which, I mean, hey, rock on. Honestly, I don't think we have it here. Yeah, we got 5 mana down. We're still 2 away from Atraxa. Let's go ahead and cycle Jetmir's Garden. Raffine's Tower's open. We're looking for another Leyline Binding, hopefully. Herd Migration can at least gain us some life. So that's something, but it's not much, honestly. Yeah, they've got 7 down. Actually, soon to become 9. So if they attack all, the Bramble Familiar tangles with the Etchings of Kumano. Yep. Well, actually, can we? Oh, never mind. They can pump the Raptor. Doggone it. All right. Stupid Raptor. Well, this is the most damage we can block, so we might as well kill the thing on the way. This represents 9. This gains us 3, leaves us at 1, if I'm not mistaken. Right. So we're doing fine on pretty much all of our colors. So yeah, this is representing blue, black. We're definitely fine on black. We have double red, triple reds. Yeah, let's grab white here. And then, yeah, we have a red and green in hand as well. Yeah. So that said, excuse me, they still have 1 mana, 2 cards in hand, and I'm at 1. There's a high likelihood of Aldair and Epicure or Kumano faces Kakazan, or just play with fire. Yep, alright, so we couldn't beat the red deck. The Rampaging Raptor representing so much damage so fast definitely presented a problem, and I probably should have held on to the Leyline Binding to be a little more patient. So, lesson learned. Well, I mean, we got Luca. We have the mana to cast Luca. And that can help us ramp up to Atali. And in the meantime, we have to go for the throat. You know what? This actually looks okay. Maybe not amazing, but perfectly okay. Our opponent's gonna play a mountain. Okay, no. We're going up against the black deck, the other one that we see often on the ladder these days. Okay, rock on. And they're leading off with the Dross Pits into a swamp. They're holding up a go for the throat as well, which, hey, I mean, I can't judge. Here we are. So, yeah. I love playing this deck. Honestly, this is only my 2nd game with it as of this moment. But I'm kind of enjoying it because we're rocking a whole bunch of different colors. And we have a ton of lands that are not domain. Which, like, the really hardcore domain list generally doesn't... I don't know. I don't think they like that, generally. But for us, it's whatever. Alright, so if we complete this, he comes in with 3. We can down tick it, rock out a beast. And then in all likelihood, yeah, let's do that. So, yeah, he's coming in completed. We're gonna down tick. We now have a 3/3 online, and we have a factory that can make 3/3s. So if they do in fact have a go for the throat in hand, if my assumption there is correct, they're gonna, you know, try to kill this thing, or not try to. They're going to kill that thing. But that's a card from their hand. And then this next turn, we play out a land that is untapped. We uptick Luca, and we can just rip Atali. Edict. Planeswalker, dang it. Oh, they're smarter than I gave them credit for. All right, fair enough. That would have been fun, though, wouldn't it? All right. Virtual Persistence is legit. Definitely not mad at that. Go ahead and, I could cycle this, but I'm gonna play it out as a land. It may not be correct. We have hey, we have presence on board, so might as well use it. All right. And yeah, we got 5 mana down. This will be 6 and 7, and we have multiple reds. So when we get to Atali, we'll have Atali. Let's see, they're milling. Oh, they hit one of the invasions. That sucks. Oh man, yep, we needed that. We definitely needed that. Still plenty more in the deck, and they just hooked me up with a target for various and sundry removals. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the go for the throat here. That way, if we top deck an invasion, we can just rip it without worrying. Obviously, hitting gigs with the virtue would have been better in general, just because that's a much more narrow piece of removal. But I wanted to do the mana efficient thing and be ready just in case. Yeah, perhaps I was a little hopeful, but I think we'll be all right. So we're attacking for another 3 here. The black decks don't generally have haste, so I'm not too worried about that. All right, cool. Yeah, I'm not super worried about that. And then next turn we can rip Atali and kind of hope for the best. Like so many situations, you just rip Atali and hope for the best. All right, they found a land that time. Doggone it. All right. We could also stick the Virtual Persistence, though. Black's going to have a very difficult time either countering that or dealing with it. And we got a bunch of goodies in the bin. So that's not a bad idea either, I think. Meanwhile, they've got the Realmbreaker, and they have Gix, who is a Praetor. So I'm assuming they have more where that came from. I'm going to go ahead and just run out of Tali and see what happens. All right, so here, this is a very slow way to get there, but might get us there. And is that a Bramble Familiar? That's a Sheoldred and a Bramble Familiar. Oh, we're gonna have a fetch quest, y'all. So the goal was to free cast Bramble Familiar off of Invasion of Alara, but getting a chance to do it off of Atali also works. Works perfectly fine. You're gonna Edict, have me sacrifice this Atali. Honestly, that's fine. You know, before we find what we're looking for. I mean, that guarantees that they got something decent, because who knows what we're gonna mill. All right, they're gonna hit the draw pitch, draw a card, sure. Let's go ahead and spin the wheel. We could put a Virtual Persistence live. We could also Leyline Binding their Realmbreaker, which is pretty great. But I think we need to establish the Virtue. And we got Sheoldred for, you know, just cause. So we got 7 damage live, and then in future turns, unless they can exile our graveyard, we're gonna make them hurt real bad here. So they got 4, 5, 6, 7 mana available. If they have their land drop here, they're gonna have 8. Realmbreaker needs 10, so I think we're good on that front. Sick. All right. Also of note, the virtues are not legendary, which is pretty cool. Just putting that out there. So if we got multiples, why not? So they're gonna go ahead and flip it at nighttime and then scoop it up. All right. So our crazy top end got there. We had to get to it in a pretty fair fashion, but we got there. So let's go. We have Invasion of Alara and 4 Triumphs in the opening hand. This hand is super slow. Super duper uber slow. But if we can get to 5, if we can survive to 5, we are gonna be in great shape. All right, just like that, we got full domain live, which is pretty rad. We do not have Leyline Binding. Is this the same deck we just faced? Yeah, so we got Celestis with a mono black base. So yeah, Herd Migration is just gonna go find us a something. At this point, honestly, I don't believe it matters. All right. So I'll be very interested to see if Realmbreaker comes out, because that's what our previous opponent, as of, you know, the last one we just recorded, they were playing a similar setup where it was mono black, but it was fairly slow. I'm very interested to see where this goes. All right. I'm going to grab a mountain. I don't know that it matters, honestly. We've got kind of everything right now. Another Invasion. Let's go. All right. This is exciting. And we can cycle one of these and be fine. So at this point, yeah, we got Bant, we got Esper, we got Jund, we got Grixis. We got them all represented. I kind of love that. All right, Phase Mace, do what you're gonna do. So yeah, they're drawing cards. I'm gonna go ahead and cycle the tower. We got a Virtue and another Invasion. Well, let's do the thing. They're playing black, so they're not countering this unless that Celestis, you know, has some crazy opportunities. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and fetch quest here. Let's see what we find. There we go. We're doing the thing. This is what we came here to do, everybody. Relative whiffs, but a Phyrexian Fleshgorger is no joke. So they probably have a Shielded Edict. Yep. That's pretty standard. You know, here in Standard, most people run a lot of those. So here we are. Now, what they don't know is we have 2 more invasions. So there's that. And we have plenty more fetch quests to go on. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop this, followed by this, to just spin it again. Now, at this point, we're milling ourselves pretty aggressively. So that's a thing. But we're going on a fetch quest, and this found a Tali and the Cemetery Desecrator. I think I want to grab the Cemetery Desecrator here. And then we're going to get an opportunity to flip the Invasion of Alara, which is pretty rad. So we're going to go ahead and go into our graveyard, exile Herd Migration. We're going to go ahead and remove these counters from one of the invasions. And the cool thing is, if our opponent kills this, we get to flip the other one, because it's on target player draw 2 cards. That's going to be me, dog. Target permanent opponent controls to destroy. I would like to blow up your Silex, please. Yeah, I'd rather you not have that. Cool. And a permanent I control to copy. I'm going to copy the Desecrator. Let's do that. And what's cool is now this other Cemetery Desecrator enters. We have another Invasion of Alara on the opposite side of the field. So our opponent has 3 mana open. They can do some stuff, potentially, but what you got, opponent? What you got? So I'm going to go here. We have another Herd Migration that we can't use out of the graveyard, so whatever. And then we get to remove counters. We get to pop this again. Yeah, it's feeling good. Feeling good. I would like to draw 2 more cards, please. Thank you. Target opponent's thing to destroy. I'm going to blow up Celestis this time, because that's how I fill the graveyard. I get to copy a thing. I'm going to copy that thing again. And I'm just going to buff the tokens. Ding. I'm just going to exile your Silex. I don't know that there's anything that... Yeah, I'm just gonna... Yeah, there's no targets to remove. I don't care. So I have to discard 4 cards. Oh no, whatever will I do? The Herd Migration can stay. Actually, I'm gonna let one of the invasions go at this point, because we're doing fine. We have another one anyway. I'm gonna discard... No. Actually, I could discard Bramble Familiar. It wouldn't be that bad. Dump that Desecrator. I probably don't need 2 for Virtues either. Yeah, I'll dump one of the Virtues. Okay. I don't know that it made a particularly big difference. At this point, we've got 18 damage online. They have a Phyrexian Arena. They've got 5. I mean, they're in mono black. There could be, like, yeah, Cruelty of Gix or something. Shieldred, sure. Like, yeah, she's good. Obviously a good card. I have a Go for Throw. They see it. They know I have it. And we get to... Oh, and this just gets to kill her on the way out. That's right. Because, yeah, her toughness is 5. So we exile one of the invasions. And target creature opponent controls gets -5, -5. Dude, this Desecrator's nasty. All right. Yeah, and we've got 12 damage online. I can't imagine a world in which they get out of this. I hate to sound like a jerk about it, but like, we're kind of just completely in control here, right? And we could even flip another invasion if we wanted to, but I don't even know that we need to at this point. You know what? I'm just gonna play out one of my Bramble Familiars from the Adventure Zone. Actually, you know what? We still have the Go for the Throat up. You know what? I'm just gonna let that be. So now we have the Go for the Throat and the Herd Migration open. Yeah, let's see what they got. So now if they have, you know, Breach. Okay. Let's see what they find. I mean, we're down to 12. We have some bangers in here. We have some absolute bangers in this deck, no question. So let's see, what bangers are they going to grab? And we have the Atali in there, which is 100% what they should do. Because if they hit the Atali, they might be able to spin into another Breach, and they might be able to get me here. Of note, these two dudes have Menace. So that could come up, I think. All right, so they got the Virtue of Persistence and a Shelley's Edict. All right, those are good. Yeah, those are real good. The reality is, though, let's see what they pick here. Because if they sacrifice a creature token, sure. Shieldred's gonna have me sacrifice the Bramble Familiar, which is fine. That's whatever. But yeah, so I sack a creature token. I have to lose one of these dudes. It dies. From their graveyard, I can exile a Breach, or I can exile. I'm gonna go ahead and exile one of my Fleshgorgers because they have the Virtue down. So that's one fewer thing for them to grab next turn. And that kills Tali comfortably. So this hits the field. Shieldred triggers. I sacrifice Bramble Familiar. We go to end step. I kill Shieldred. I still have a 6-drop online. So there we go. Our opponent breached the multiverse, did the thing. We still had lethal. So yeah, honestly, the Go for the Throat was unnecessary because we have Menace. So there we go. Alara beating Breach the Multiverse. That felt great. All right. This hand looks really sick. We have the Herd Migrations, the Bramble Familiars. Leyline Binding is a little awkward here, but I think we'll be okay. So I can lead up with the Stormcarved Coast, followed by Boseiju, and then either draw the Bramble Familiar or channel Herd Migration to go grab Plains so that we can hopefully get up to Leyline Binding. I'm going to lead off with the Bramble Familiar. Now, our opponent's on Orzhov. There's a high likelihood that this Bramble Familiar is not long for this world, just by virtue of how that works. Also, unfortunately, none of our lands are typed. So we do need to find some Triomes fast. Like, that is really important. Yeah, they're going to ossify. Got to bolt the bird. I respect it. You got to hit the dorks when you can. Mirex is interesting. I don't necessarily love it, but it is interesting. Let's do this. Followed by this. I'm gonna go ahead and try to tempt them with another one. Let's see how this goes. If they have more removal, I'm encouraging them to use it here. The reality is, black has a lot of real banger 3-drops, and I want to keep them off of those 3-drops if I can. Now, unfortunately, we've now lost 2 of our Bramble Familiars. To say that sucks is a shocking understatement. It just is. Okay, so now we have the Herd Migration channel. We have that open. So now if we hit an Invasion of Alara, we only have 1 hit left in the deck. We're going to find the Go for the Throat, and we're going to find 1 Bramble Familiar. That is it. So that's a problem. We don't like that. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and hit this. Go grab that Plains. Alrighty-roo. So we also have Luca, potentially. Live and/or online. I think I want a full-price Luca here. That sounds like a fine plan to me. And we can uptick. I'm gonna go ahead and downtick. Let's make a 3/3. The Inspired Overseer is threatening 2 damage to Luca, so I'm not too worried about Luca dying here. And, you know, if Luca can uptick, we have access to Atali. So I'm hopeful. Steel Seraph, great. That is perfectly fine. So they're gonna probably give, yeah, lifelink. It was gonna be like lifelink or vigilance. Either way, totally cool. Do your thing, dog. Not a bad plan. So now we throw the Llanowar Wastes. We uptick. Spend this mana only to cast critters. Cool. Let's grip it and rip it. We have a Tali Prama Conqueror. We have a Guardian of Gurapur coming off of our opponent's deck, as well as a Leyline Binding. So this Leyline Binding is easily going to eat that Steel Seraph. Nom, 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 nom. And the Guardian of Gurapur gets to blink. Yeah, we get to blink our Tali. That is gross. And then on our end step, we get another Atali trigger. That's fantastic. Opponent, thank you for putting Guardian of Gurapur in your list. That is savage and beautiful. And here, we now have the Inspiring Overseer, as well as the Invasion of frickin' Alara. We found it, everybody. The value spins continue. And we're gonna go ahead and hit the fetch quest. Let's go. I love free spinning 7-drops. They're my favorite. And Cemetery Desecrator hits the field. Let's see. We're gonna go ahead and exile one of our herd migrations, just because in the graveyard it doesn't do anything for us. We go ahead and remove the counters, do the things. And so Awaken the Maelstrom. I'm gonna draw the cards. Target a permanent and opponent controls to destroy. I'm gonna target the planes that has the ossification on it, because I'm a monster. And then we're gonna make a copy of the Guardian of Gurapur. And so their ossification's gone. This comes back. The Guardian of Gurapur copy blinks a Tali. And then, yeah, this is disgusting. So our opponent's now sitting on 2 lands and an Inspiring Overseer. What do they do? That was what, 30 mana worth of stuff? I mean, like, that was absurd what we just did. Yeah, and it was made possible because of Luca ramping up into a Tali. Luca with the Tali, there's something there. I see 4 lands. I see the Invasion of Alara, and I even see decent removal at the 2-drop slot on the way. The Italian hand is a little awkward, but hey, there have been plenty of games we've had so far with this deck where that Italian hand completely saved our bacon. So, I'm just going to run it out and see what happens. Cool. And we can lead off with the Raffine's Tower, which gives us access to black as well as white. That way, if we top deck a Leyline Binding, we can cast it. Cool. So yeah, that's happening. And then we're gonna be able to do the Llanowar Wastes. We're gonna take a pain to put the Bramble Familiar down. Our opponent's on Selesnya. That gives me hope. Ooh, do we Bramble Familiar or do we? You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and throw the Proving Grounds. Keep the Leyline Binding back. We're on the draw here. There's a decent chance they're gonna have some kind of 3-drop that we're gonna want to disrupt. So being able to disrupt the 3-drop. Calyx, yeah, big time. Definitely need to get that the heck out of here. Boom. So we bind Calyx all day. Don't think twice, just make it happen. And now we can go ahead and throw Xander's Lounge. We keep the lands tapped, play out the Bramble Familiar, and if in our next turn, if we can play the Llanowar Wastes, if I'm not mistaken, we've got the Invasion live. Oh no, I am mistaken. We don't have a second white or blue source. All right, we got another Calyx. So we need to top deck a white or blue source. Or, we just have to wait a turn. Which, not the end of the world. Yeah, we gotta wait a turn. Okay. That's okay. Because we do have this. So we pop Calyx real quick. Just get him gone. And then I'm gonna throw the Llanowar Wastes. We have the ability to attack here and then also Herd Migrate. Herd Migrate? Yeah, whatever. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go ahead and get in for 2 damage while we can. I'm not worried about hasters coming out of that deck. Yeah, we just answered 2 Calyxes. Or Calyxes, or however you want to say it. You're gonna Boseiju my Leyline Binding. That is fine, actually. That is perfectly fine. So yeah, you get Calyx back this turn, but you're ramping me. I'm 100% taking action on this. All day, every day, no question. And that gives us a Spara's headquarters. Boom. That's going to make our life a whole heck of a lot easier. And then I'm going to go ahead and channel this. We have some incidental life gain, and then we're also going to go grab an island. I don't know that it matters, but just cover all our bases. Make sure everything is set. for an invasion. Boom, baby. Let's grip it and rip it. And this finds the fetch quest. And we put the... And we have the Go for Throat in hand and the mana to cast it. Oh, boy, howdy. This is great. So... We could grab out the Bramble Familiar or the Phyrexian Fleshgorger. Both look pretty good, but honestly, I'm gonna slow roll it. I'm gonna grab the Virtue. And then we're gonna go ahead and just go for Calyx's Throat again. Third time they have put Calyx on the field and I have found the removal while progressing our game plan. This is gross. Make no mistake, this is gross. I kind of wish I had an aura for this Bramble Familiar so that we could Virtue of Persistence, their Calyx, put an aura on our Bramble Familiar, crack, and make a copy of the Virtue. That's like the greed. The greed! But oh boy, howdy, it's real. All right. So there are 3 mana, and look at this. Look at this board state we've set up. Like, this is disgusting. I mean, good on them. They're playing it out. I have a lot of respect for that. But to what end? All right. They're going to ossify my Bramble Familiar. All right, fair enough. And we're going to steal... We can steal Calyx, another Bramble Familiar, or the Gorger. I'm going to grab the Gorger. I think that's going to have the biggest impact on the board. And we top deck an Invasion. At this point, there's a Familiar here. There's a Familiar there. There are 2 Familiars. Or no, yeah, those are those 2 that are in exile. And then we have 1 in the graveyard. So we still have 1 in the deck. This should... go find it for us, if I'm not mistaken, and give us a fetch quest. No, I am mistaken. We do not. Oh, there it is. Okay, good. All right, fetch quest time. Whee! We're gonna fill our graveyard for the Virtue of Persistence, and we also just found the one, the only, mother flipping Atali. Atali's not a fair Magic card. Not even close. Not even close. Our opponent knows it. I know it. You know it. Yeah, this deck is nuts. So yeah, thank you so much for checking this out. So I played 5 games. I did not cut any for this video. You got to watch all of them. We lost our first one against Mono Red and then just crushed. So I'm very proud of this deck. Well, I didn't build it. I think this is the real deal. Bottom line, I think this deck is legit. It feels kind of like a gimmick, but it's a gimmick that seems to be firing pretty consistently, and the amount of value you get off it, I mean, this is a big-time value slot machine, the kind of thing you can do with Atali. And Alara into Fetch Quest is a neat way to get there. I like it. So, yeah, mad props to the original designer on the MTGO challenge. And, yeah, if you want to check this out, I did have the link, or I'm going to go ahead and put the deck list in the description. So feel free to copy it out of that. It is card for card exactly what won that standard challenge. So, is what it is. Like I said, I was late to the party on this one, but this is my kind of nonsense. So, it was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. And I want to give a huge shout out and huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon, patreon.com/hamhocks42. So thank you so much for doing all that you do to make videos like these, as well as the Overthinking MTG podcast and my live streams possible. They make a huge difference. And so you, dear viewer, for as little as $1 a month can help me over there as well. And I want to give a special thank you to my mythic patrons at the $10 level. And they are Angry Jellyfish, Bunyip, Else89, Hal, Carl Ligon, Ryan, Vailreth, Yuckfoozy, and our newest patron, Sir Mowgli. Thank you so much. It makes a huge difference. Also, at the $10 level, if you're interested, you actually do get the ability to send me a deck tech, or send me a full deck, and I will do a deck tech video like this one on it and give you proper credit, of course. And also, maybe provide some suggestions. If you have any questions or would like me to maybe tweak it to hopefully make it a little more consistent, I'm happy to do that. It's actually a lot of fun. And that is one of the benefits for being a patron. So if you have a deck and you want to let people know and let people see it here on this channel, Patreon's the place where you can make that happen. So again, thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.